So as you know, I'm Jon Browning. I started Global Mentorship Initiative back in 2019, and that came out of a story that going from the corporate world to the nonprofit world. But I am currently the CEO and the founder of one of the largest mentorship programs in the world to help students to get their first job and learn AI skills, to work with the general ledger and financial reports. As they're graduating now, they're finding that's not the kind of jobs they're going to be doing. In fact, they're going to be managing AI agents to do those things for them. And we're in that awkward phase where colleges, universities have not caught up with training students. AI in the workplace is moving so much faster than curriculum and training is. Those are the things that AI cannot replace. The value of human connection that leads to job opportunities, human connection that leads to life happiness, that leads to finding a life partner. Those are things that you can't replicate in AI.
Welcome to Change Me podcast. I'm really happy to have you on today. I think we will cover a lot of topics from what GMI is doing, the story behind GMI, the work you're doing with underrepresented students and also refugees, but also dive into your career journey a little bit. And I think towards the end, I will be happy to share my story with GMI and actually hear from you what you're looking for, let's say. But I would like to start with you introducing yourself so people who be listening know who I'm talking to, or who you are and what you do as well.
Hi, Jado. Thanks so much for having me on the Change Me podcast. I'm delighted to be here and just really appreciate you giving me a chance to say more about GMI and a chance to tell my story as well. So I appreciate that. So as you know, I'm Jon Browning. I started Global Mentorship Initiative back in 2019, and that came out of a story that going from the corporate world to the nonprofit world. But I am currently the CEO and the founder of one of the largest mentorship programs in the world to help students to get their first job and learn AI skills.
Wonderful. Also, I think if you look at what's happening now with AI and all the technology, it's actually going to change so much that also you kind of have to adjust to the mentorship you give to the students. Because before, the work was borderless. We can hire anyone from anywhere. And then now we have AI from the cloud that can do the work. I think it's changing a lot.
Exactly. And I want to tell you all about what we're doing at GMI to work towards this new AI human workspace. But for context, first, tell your audience about your interaction with GMI.
Yeah, for sure. My story with GMI was back in 2021. And that time I was towards the end of my undergrad program. And I was like, first of all, I'm confused. I don't know what I want, in a sense. And I want to find a job, when you're looking for your first job. And I had my mentor, Dave, who was from Southern New Hampshire University. He used to tell me, when you're looking for a job is your job. So you have a full-time job of looking for a job. And also he added job market and job application and all the job search journey. It's a journey of numbers. It's a game of numbers. The more jobs you apply to, the more rejections you get, but also the more closer you get to the interview. But what I liked the most is, for me, I was like, okay, I needed the guidance. I would love to know what's going on in those closed offices. As you've been there for 10, 20 years, I would like to steal some knowledge from you so I know what's going on there. and he was able to guide me. But also, the mentorship is structured in a way that I know what to do this week, and I know the topic to tackle. I know my assignment. I know what I can expect from the mentor and what he expects or she expects from me. And he was able to guide me to figure out, okay, first of all, okay, this is what I actually like. This is what I enjoy the most. And this is what I'm good at. This is where I can start. But also, I think what we don't talk about the most is you might start as an accountant, but you don't know if you're going to end up being an accountant for the rest of your career. And I think the hardest part is to figure out, where do I start? And then when you know where to start, and then you can, okay, well, for me, I knew I enjoyed putting information from different places, spreadsheets, documents, and then kind of summarize them. So data analysis, presentation, and visualization of the numbers and stuff. So I was able to jump into that after the mentorship. But the interesting part for me was to gain some insights from him, which is, okay, hey, it's a game of numbers and we all do the same. But actually, when you're starting, you don't know. It's like, I don't know, is it my problem or is it the job market problem? So that's how I got to interact with the GMI. But also, I would love to highlight, because I think the conversation we had in 2022, when I was on the panel presenting what I was doing with the ABF, the inspiration we got from GMI, and we tried to kind of implement the simplified version of GMI in ABF, and we've done great things. But the key is the feedback you get from the student. It's like, look, that skill you taught me on how to write email, it changed everything. Or that guidance you gave me to make my CV, it changed the game. And I think that's what's amazing about GMI for the students who are starting, for sure.
I appreciate you saying that. It seems to be the consistent feedback that we have is that we're onto something good here. And you were one of the first, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 students that went through the program, and we now have 13,000 that have been matched with mentors since we started. And I'd like to think we've learned a little bit in this process to make it an even better mentorship program than when you were in it. So we've tightened it up to 10 mentorship sessions instead of it was started at 14. And then we've introduced AI. And I'm not sure if you had the initial AI experience when you were in the program or if we had launched it after. And this was a matter of responding to what the real world and the real workforce is like. So we now have AI tools for your job search in the program. In fact, we have an app that we make available that will create a CV or a resume just by you inputting some information, or just attaching your LinkedIn profile if you have one yet, and it will create a resume based or CV based on that. And then that's your base CV that you customize for each job application. But and then there's a lot of tools like that. But there's in the job search, as you know, the job search today is nothing like when you first went into college or university, what you thought it was going to be. And what we find now is that students that 4 years ago, they went in to get an accounting degree, to be an accountant, to work with the general ledger and financial reports. As they're graduating now, they're finding that's not the kind of jobs they're going to be doing. In fact, they're going to be managing AI agents to do those things for them. And we're in that awkward phase where colleges, universities have not caught up with training students. AI in the workplace is moving so much faster than curriculum and training is. And it has caused a significant gap in students saying that they're ready uh, for jobs. And in fact, 30, 30% of college graduates last year were able to get a full-time job in their chosen field. And that's down from 41% the year before. And only about a third of college graduates, university graduates, believe that their education has prepared them to use AI in the workplace. And half of them say they don't even feel prepared for entry level roles. And where it's been a problem, and I'm sure you see this with the students that you work with, is the entry level jobs for a graduate, where they thought this is the ones where I'm going to learn, I'm going to get experience, I'm going to build my value to the company I'm working with, research, early communications, all project management. So much of that is being automated now with AI that those entry level jobs are quietly or slowly disappearing from the pool of available jobs for these young graduates. And that leaves a tremendous gap. What's more so is because of general layoffs, particularly in the tech industry, as AI replaces some of these jobs, even at higher levels, those more senior people are now taking those lower level jobs to stay in the workplace. Therefore, the upcoming graduates never have those opportunities either. So and I'm not completely negative on AI. I think AI does wonderful things, and we can talk more about some incredible stuff we're doing with AI. But we have to be aware that we're in this very awkward phase of job readjustment, and the AI revolution is moving much faster than the industrial revolution or the internet revolution did. And it's going to be painful for a little while as this settles out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in 2021, when we went into the GMI mentorship, we never had the AI tools or thinking about what's coming with AI. Not really. We were still into, okay, I just want to be an accountant and that's it. But now, as you highlighted, I think also I can tell you, I I'm now finishing. I'm doing my last exams on my master's, and even on a master level, you finish. I see many students, they finish their degrees, and it's like, I don't know if I'm prepared
Yeah,
enough to go to the workplace. And that's a
yeah.
master level. It's 2 years or 1 year of above the college degree. And the entry level job, it's no longer entry because it's different. We've never seen something like this. And I wonder how the mentors are also coping with this, because I needed the guidance as a student, but how did the mentors also guide the students throughout that confusion, let's say?
Yes. So this is new to the mentors as well. So we've had to make our mentorship and training program very easy for a mentor to guide a student through. And so the tools we have, the written instruction for mentors, that helps, but they also often lack the perspective of actually using AI, yet in a workplace or in other ways. The What's coming now is what we've seen is we can teach students how to use AI tools for their job search, but that's not necessarily going to prepare them to use AI in the workplace. So we're in development now to create an AI workforce readiness program, which will be released in a few months, in partnership with some universities and some other corporate partners. It's designed to be a credentialed program to prepare students to enter their job, which is this new AI human hybrid job that they're going to be doing, to enter that job hitting the ground running, so that they actually can demonstrate in a job interview that they are an asset to their company as they join, rather than being a liability because they don't understand AI. So it's a multi-session module that takes you from AI awareness to AI competency up to AI fluency. And so, for example, working with a cohort of 10 or so students who are also studying this program, led by an AI expert, and with a project to work on, and then a credentialed output so that they actually have the certification. That's a multi-partner certification. We think that will help because part of that fluency section is, how do I speak about my AI competency or fluency? How do I speak about that in a job interview? How do I let an employer know that I'm ready to help you in this transition rather than to stand in your way? We think that can make a difference. But this part of, how do I prepare for a workforce? A lot of people don't know the difference between a chat bot and an AI agent and generative AI. And so there's just this basic understanding of how I'm going to use this in a business.
Absolutely. I would say from my experience, watching what's happening with AI tools and the evolution, it's happening so fast that even if you're following it, you're like, I don't know if I can keep up with this. And that brings me to the point of, as a student who lives in Europe, or a student who lives in America, a student who lives in Australia or somewhere developed, let's say. But also I think of the student who lives in a refugee camp in Rwanda, in Malawi, in Sudan. How do you tell them the story about the chatbots, the AI agents, the AI tools, automation tools, when they haven't even seen them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And about 10% of the students in the GMI program have refugee status, either living in a camp or in process of migrating to another country or somewhere along that line. And as you know, it's a completely different environment, and the opportunities, the prospects can be less until you get out of that environment. And we've had so many great success stories working with students who are displaced. But AI presents not only an opportunity, but an additional challenge. And let me give you an example of that. If if I am if I'm graduating soon and I'm completing my CV or my resume, I might use an AI tool to help me generate that. And then I'll go find jobs. And then, and if I'm smart, I'm going to customize my CV to fit the right keywords in that job to help me get an interview. And that's what we teach in GMI. And so you do that process 5 or 10 times a day, and eventually you're going to get, as you said, it's a game of numbers. That's exactly right. You're going to get an interview or two, and you might even get an offer. It's that process. However, where the game is being changed, and most people yet do not realize this, is so to do that, you're using a chatbot to provide you information, to even generate a CV for you. Where it's different is when you start using an AI agent that's a job application AI agent. And here's an example of how the playing field is no longer level for young graduates and students who have wealth, who have means that can afford this, or they have time. And a job application agent will not only create your CV, it will search Indeed, LinkedIn, all of these major job boards, looking for jobs that fit the criteria that you've told it to. It will then compare your resume or CV for a good match. It will then take your base CV and customize it to fit the keywords for that job. And it will then, using the company's job application, it will then fill out and submit their application without a single touch from you in the process. And this happens in the space of 5 minutes. You can have 25 of these agents doing this simultaneously. You can submit hundreds of job applications a day. And then when you talk about the law of, or it's a game of numbers, that student with means has many more numbers to work with than the student who may have access to the basic AI platform and who can only do so much. And that happens with an AI agent. And it's happening today. Students who know about this are doing this now. And this is an example of where AI is a great leveler and also providing an advantage to those who can afford more.
Well, it is going still to challenge those students who are still in those places who don't have access to the tools, the right agents, but also designing the agent requires skill. But what I think I like the most is the AI readiness program, because me as a student who's there trying to figure out how to fit in this ever-changing world of work, I needed to understand what's there and what's happening, because it's not obvious. Many people know ChatGPT, they know Claude, it's just that. But do we really know how to design the agent that can apply for me, for jobs, even if I'm able to afford it? Can I really do that? And I think the AI readiness program, absolutely universities should have that, because it's changing the workplace and what we do as human beings. I wanted to shift to something. You guiding students in throughout the process to say, hey, this is how you can get your first job. And you said you only have 10% of students in your program are refugees. What does it take? Or why don't we have like 30% or more refugee students? Because the reason I ask this question is because I know those students, they have more limitations and they actually need this mentorship more than any other students. What does it take to have more refugee students in GMI program?
Well, then it takes some more partnerships with GMI with refugee organizations, and we could definitely have a larger percentage of refugee students in the program, because the same program that works with university students anywhere in Africa or in Latin America, it works with somebody in a refugee camp as well. It's the same program. We're so glad to be partnering with the UNHCR, the UN Refugee Commission, and it's a new partnership. They're just beginning to bring in more, not only refugees in the program, but mentors who want to support them, help them. But I would throw that back to you, Jado. I'd love for introductions to refugee organizations, and we'll sign them up and we'll get them in the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that partnership with organizations working with refugees directly in a refugee camp, it's much needed, because I say this. The reason is, as a student, back in 2021, I was doing my undergrad at SNHU at Kepler in Rwanda. I was not full-time living in a refugee camp, but there is a student who is living in a refugee camp who doesn't have an opportunity to go at Kepler, or get the SNHU scholarship, but how do we help that student as well? So it's through that partnership. And I think, to me, that will create more impact and also reach more students, I would say, refugees in a camp than what we currently have in GMI. But I say it's a much needed partnership, I have to say. And I saw the news. It's like, yeah, this is what refugees need.
Yeah, we're always open to any youth partner that works with refugees who'd like to be part of this program. And there's no cost to the youth partner or, of course, the student to be part of the program.
Yeah, I would love to shift on something. You did your education at CWU in accounting in 1990, and then you wanted to work in Microsoft, and then after that you now co-founded GMI, and you told the story. GMI came from the Rockefeller Foundation program you were working with, and then you realized this is a much needed intervention, let's say. But how did you come to the point where you're like, yeah, this is it?
That's it's an interesting question, and I guess I was lucky that I had this opportunity, but it wasn't just a single moment that led me to a second career. So I had a 24-year good career in the corporate world at Microsoft. I started there in 1990 and left in 2014. But and that would have been a great, accomplishment, a great career. But that was just the first half of my life. I hope that enabled me to do something that like this. So what happened was in my last year at Microsoft, 2013, somebody from the Rockefeller Foundation reached out, and they were looking for Microsoft to be part of the Digital Jobs Africa initiative. And that was about helping companies, global companies, bring good tech jobs to students in higher unemployment regions in Africa. We started in 6 nations. And I signed up for that, or was asked to sign up for that. And being exposed to that type of environment, those kinds of leaders who really wanted to make a change for good in the world, had a profound effect on me, because that was not who I was at that time. I was very focused on my own career. And fast forward a year later, I ended up leaving Microsoft to work full time with the foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation. And that expanded to become the global impact sourcing movement, which is still something today. And it's about hiring workers around the world who may need a little extra training and become great employees. They stay longer on the job because you've given them an opportunity. It's a great story. And so I was lucky to have a little part in that. But there was an aha moment that led to Global Mentorship Initiative. And that's when I was in Johannesburg in December of 2017. We were working with job recruiters there, and one of them said to me, he said, it's great you're getting companies to bring jobs to these areas, and that's much needed. But she said, unfortunately, the young graduates you hope would be getting these jobs are not usually the ones getting them. Instead, they're going to students who have a parent that works in a corporate world that can make an introduction, or they're going to students who have a mentor or have coaching, have business connections, and business connections get you jobs. We all know that. And without a network, you're at a very significant disadvantage in getting your first job. And so that was the aha moment that maybe the initiative that we were doing alone was not enough. Maybe there needed to be something to help level the playing field for these students who were targeting for jobs. Maybe we need to help close that gap. And specifically, those students are first generation students. They were the first in their college to go to, first in their families to go to college. Because we know that they may not have the same job connections that come with a parent that's went to college, has all of these corporate connections and things. And then low income students were also a target. And then, of course, as we've discussed, students who are displaced or have refugee status were targets for this initiative. And so that was, I remember the moment actually in Johannesburg in my hotel room when I said, wow, we could do something about this. Maybe that's where I should be going towards. And I latched onto it, came back to the States, had a breakfast with somebody who was going to eventually would be on the GMI board. And I said, literally, it was on a napkin, believe it or not. Let's scope this out. What could this be? And we launched GMI right at the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020. We'd done some pilot testing. And we had a college, a university in South Africa and a university in Mississippi in the United States. And it just hit a spot where mentors were receptive because they were stuck at home. They couldn't go to work. They had free time and they could do a virtual mentorship from their kitchen table. And then, of course, as you know, this is something that students desperately need to help them be competitive in their job search. And it just took off from there. And so now over 30,000 registered mentors, students. I mentioned about 10% of our students are refugees. And so I credit somebody in Johannesburg, a recruiter, for telling me, you're not hitting the target. You're not hitting the goal with this current program. And it gave us a spark to think of a way to change it.
Wow. Wow. It's a story. When I hear this story, for me, this is a story of getting exposed to something you weren't paying attention to, let's say, initially. And then you realize, okay, this might be something. Maybe what I'm doing now is fine, but this sounds and feels like the right thing to do. And then you get exposed, but also I hear someone who is watching. I remember when we were at Kepler doing our undergrad, they used to tell us people watching and listening. So I hear someone who've been watching and listening and said, hey, I think you should pay attention to this. And I'm glad he or she said that because it led to this.
I'm glad to. And not all of the strategies have been winners at GMI. And I had things before GMA that of course didn't work out. Nobody succeeds on every attempt. In fact, most attempts are failures. If you don't have those failures, you never get to the one that succeeds. So you've got to go through that process.
Yeah, but of course it's easy said than done, because when during the process you're like, this is my problem first of all, but actually no, it's the process of getting it right. You go through the failures, and
Yes.
and to that story, what I would connect to that is I share this story I heard from this comedian and Kevin Hart. He told his story of how he started comedy. Basically, someone at the work said, hey, you should try stand-up comedy because you're funny.
Yes.
And to me, this is where workplaces comes in. It's not only me going to work, completing my tasks and everything, but also it's me receiving feedback, good and constructive feedback for me to improve on, which might lead to my career growth or career killing, because I'm like, I'm not selling sneakers anymore. I'm going to do comedy, which I think it's also basically the same as what you did, which is I switched completely to something different. But I would love to hear, how do you guide students to seek and receive those feedback, both
Yes.
negative and the positive side of it.
It, it's uh that's a difficult process because all of us have this bias towards what we think is best for us. Uh, and and so and that happened to me too when I left Microsoft and I was doing things with Rockefeller. There's still this part of me that says, okay, you need to focus on being a consultant. That's where you should be. Use all of this 24 years of knowledge that you got at Microsoft. And I started doing that also. And there came a point where I had to ask myself, why am I doing this? I know that my future lies in this other area where I can be helpful to students, the mentorship program, turning that into something. Why am I hanging on to a legacy idea? Because I think that's what you're supposed to do when you leave a big company that you've worked at a long time. And it was a process of saying, no, I just need to stop this. Uh, and, and once I determined that, it's like this tremendous burden lifted off my shoulders. I can remember it just felt like it was a new day because I'm no longer trying to do something I thought I was obligated to do. And I could do something I wanted to do instead. And I think it's the same for students coming into the workplace. Uh, we're picking on accountants today. We're talking about accounting degrees, but this is a true story for me. I have a degree in accounting, and I started at Microsoft in telecom, and and was there a couple years. Worked myself into a supervisor role. This is like 91, 92. And I thought, okay, now is my chance. I'm going to go over to the finance side and I'm going to work on accounting and finance because that's what I studied in college. And I went over there and they were the nicest to me, but they realized and I realized that this is just not where, this is just not what I enjoy. And, and so funny how your entire college career, you think, I'm going to do this, and then when you get there, you think, I don't really like this, or this, it's not what I thought it was going to be. There is no shame in going and finding something because don't waste your career on something that you feel obligated to do because you're going to have a lot more fun and the compensation is going to be there in a different field as well. And I'll bring it back home to the mentorship program. We have students who join the program and they tell their mentor, I've already applied to 40 different companies. I've sent my CV and my resume to all these companies. I haven't heard back from any of them. And then when we look at their CV, it's so generic. They're going for a job at this company and it doesn't meet any of the criteria to tell a recruiter that you're interested or qualified for that specific job. So one of the things we do, as you know, is you have a resume for every job you apply for. That takes more time and it's easier and to do an AI now. So it's not such a time thing. But that tells the recruiter, I really want this job. And here are my direct qualifications, as in the keywords that match the job description. And when they know you are focused, you're much more likely to get an opportunity to talk to a real person.
Yeah, I think also we highlight the challenge there, which is I feel like I don't know what I want, but I have to have the specificity in the first place before I even set foot into door. And I think, I guess this is where the mentors come in to say, hey, it's totally fine. I started as an accountant and now look at me. This is what I'm doing. But I had to say, hey, I'm going to do accounting. And then that led me to discovering this other thing. And then I realized that, yeah,
Exactly.
this is what I like. I think students need to maybe I'm a lot younger than you. I also need to hear this. You need to be specific in the first place, and then you can expand further. Is that something you experience from students or no?
Well, yes, and you bring up a good point. You have to go through periods of unhappiness in your job and your career to get you to where you want to be. And as I look back and think about my career, there were so many mismatches for jobs, or I just wasn't mature enough for the job. And it's okay to admit that, but it was in those times where there was such conflict, for example, with your manager, that you felt I have to find something that's a better fit. At the moment, that feels very painful, very distressing. I look back on it now and said, okay, that led to this position, which led me to an introduction to the Rockefeller Foundation, which led me to where we are today. And so consequently, I wouldn't change any of those negative experiences because they all lead you to where you are today. The question is are you going to make the right choices in the decision tree to when those negative things happen? Are you going to go to the in the right ways? Oftentimes we're not. And then what do? You change again. It's just part of the process. And a lot of times we get stuck. Okay, this is good enough. I'm going to stay here because it pays well. I like the people. No, I'm not happy, but it's good enough. And don't get stuck in that rut, though.
Mm. Well, it's I think in the 10 sessions you have in GMI mentorship, 5 sessions should be about this journey.
Yes, at least one of them are where we go through that process of career discovery. But you're right. This is the base. If you don't have this, you don't know where to build all the other stuff, though.
Yeah, I think it's also the foundation to say, hey, don't kid yourself. Sort of, don't kid yourself. You know what you want, but actually want something to begin with, and then voila, you will figure out as you go, and then you get to this whole journey of discovering how, okay, this is it. But I think that story of I go into this and then led me to this and led me to that, and now here I am. It's what students actually need the most, to be like, hey, now because the AI tools can make me help me to make the CV, the cover letter, and then adjust and okay, fine. But the AI tools are not going to tell me or have this human conversation say, hey, I want to be honest with you. I'm in this journey now that I'm also discovering what's next for me. So I'm in this career for 10 years, but I'm still discovering. And I think there is something nice about the story of telling the student, hey, I'm still in the journey. Just join the journey. You need an entry of
Exactly.
Yeah, entry place.
Yeah. If you never join the journey, if you watch it from the sidelines, then you miss out on all the growth that goes with it.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going on there. I would say when I was talking to Dave, my mentor back in 2021, I was like, I'm in this place and I'm frustrated. I don't even know the next step tomorrow and I don't know what to do. I apply for jobs and then I get rejection and I think it's my problem. Exactly. It's my problem. But I think he shared the story of his and then it's like, okay, it's just the journey. You just have to go through it and you're lucky to have someone to guide you through the process and voila, you figure out as you go. But to me, listening to your story of how you came from Microsoft and then Rockefeller Foundation, and then now to GMI, I think that guidance is what I will take today as a student to say, hey, I can do the CV. Just help me go through, figure out this part of the story. But I would like to ask you this question, and it's it's from your experience. You worked for Microsoft in corporate, you worked in Rockefeller Foundation, and then now you're at GMI, leading GMI. But to me, it's a journey of you've learned different things. So I would love to borrow some wisdom from your experience. I'm probably 20 years younger than you. I would love to borrow
At
some
least.
experience from you. But what have you learned and realized throughout your journey that you say now, I can tell this to a student or my son or daughter or my colleague and friend who is younger than me?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think this is more important now than ever. What I'll say here is because we're moving into this artificial world with social media algorithms, with AI, it just should remind us that there is a tremendous value in human connection, even as we progress into this artificial world. And because that is where humans grow, that is where opportunity comes. And it's become a focus of my career at GMI. Uh, the things that show up on a CV uh, have little to do with your life. Uh, they're the words that you do. That that's what you are in a professional world, but it's what shows up in actual relationships, uh, generosity that you have, showing empathy to others. Those things don't show up on a CV, and they're not translated then to a hiring manager who says, wow, this person is not only qualified or maybe just barely qualified for this job, but I can tell by that human connection that they're going to grow with our company. They're going to be a good uh, fit for our work team. Those are the things that AI cannot replace. The value of human connection that leads to job opportunities, human connection that leads to life happiness, that leads to finding a life partner. Those are things that you can't replicate in AI, and I'm afraid for our society when we have hundreds of friends on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc., and yet 52% of us say we're lonely, and 47% of us say that we don't have meaningful friendships. And 1 in 10 of us say that we're lonely every day. And yet we've got hundreds of friends. In the United States, the Surgeon General in 2023 declared loneliness a national pandemic, uh, even though we are more connected than ever before. So what are we missing? We're replacing actual human connection with algorithms, and with we don't need to talk to somebody now because we've got AI, we've got processes. And I guess what I'm saying in that is let's let AI handle the transactions, the easy stuff, uh, the the things that can be replicated, and let's use the time that we've saved because of this, and let's focus on nurturing and cultivating human relationships so that we can grow our strategy together, so that we can grow our friendship, so that we can find that life partner that we're looking for. There's AI has got a lot of good things, but we cannot rely on it to be a human replacement. That is where we get in trouble as a society.
Um, well, well, thank you really for saying that, because it's 1,000% true. You have 1,000 followers, but you're like, I need someone to share lunch with, and then you don't have any.
Yes.
It's true, but we tended to be like, nah, it's fine, it's okay, but it's actually not okay.
No, no, it's not. And we pay a price socially and as a society. It's the reason, and to be honest, we could automate an AI agent or even a chatbot that could be your mentor. And they will probably give you a lot of great information on the tactics of job search. They cannot connect you with one of their friends who has a job opening as an accountant. They cannot look you in the eye and tell you your your interview skills, there's a problem here, that you need to look people in the eye, or you need to this is how you should approach the human side of things. uh, an AI bot cannot do that. A human who will tell you you're underselling yourself, you need to show more confidence. That's the value of human connection and mentorship that I just don't think can be replaced, at least not anytime soon.
No, not really, not really. Because also when I talk to you, when I talk to Dave as my mentor, I'm I'm getting all the non-verbal cues, and also let's say the energy from him, my mentor or my mentee, and I think we don't talk about that, but it's also very, very important. Now, job searching. Give me a strategy as a student. I am graduating and now full time on LinkedIn applying for jobs. What's the strategy for job search that you teach at GMI?
Yes, and as you know, it's changing rapidly right now. I'll give you a combination answer that's old school and new AI school, because I think this is where the sweet spot is. Uh, uh, Focus specifically on the job titles that you are best qualified for and the companies initially that you'd like to work for, but understanding that not everybody is going to can work for Google and Microsoft and Meta and the top big seven, the Magnificent Seven. There are so many opportunities in smaller companies to build your skills, to build your CV credentials, and you just might find that is your team. That smaller teams often are more satisfying to work with. And so I encourage students all the time, don't just think about Meta and Microsoft and NVIDIA, or think about local companies who will take care of their local teams. Paring down to specific job descriptions help you focus in on keywords that need to be in your resume. They need to be in your introduction letters. And so having that list of keywords, and again, if I'm an accountant, I'm gonna focus on GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. I'm gonna focus on CPA. I'm gonna focus on general ledger and names of software, because this is something that still a lot of students don't know. When you send in a CV or a resume to a company, it's not going to be read by human eyes. It's going to go through a job scan, an optical character scanner, looking for keywords to fit that specific job. If you don't have enough of them in your CV, it's going to be thrown out. You'll never hear from a live person. If the AI scanner determines you're a good fit or potential, then you're going to get passed to a human who is going to spend about 10 or 15 seconds looking at that. That's the second test. And if they see what they're looking for, so being concise is important, then they're going to send you an email and say, let's look at the next step in the process. This is a problem with AI today. And I mentioned those AI agents for job applications. You post any job on Indeed or LinkedIn today, and as an employer, I'm going to get literally 100 applications in the first 2 days. Somewhere in there is my ideal candidate. There's probably 5 of them in there, but the other 95 are going to be agent created applications that I don't know what's behind that AI interface. Is that a person who's a good fit? Are they just telling me what I want to know? So this is the dilemma of a job recruiter. And you have to find a way to be human as you're using these keywords. You have to write an introductory. It cannot be perfect. If we have a moment, I'll just tell you about the watch out for AI written documents because job recruiters know them more than anyone. And if you go to your favorite AI tool and you ask it to tell you the defining characteristics of a document written by AI, it will do that. It will violate its own secrecy and it will do that. One of the things that you want to look for is these elongated hyphens, these little M dashes, they're called. If I see that in an email, and I know that those are not things humans use, I know that that was written by AI. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a valid message. It just means that that's not coming from that person's head or heart. That's coming from AI. Recruiters know this as well. So be very careful on your CVs, your intro letters, your thank you letters. Sure, let AI write them for you, and then you make them human, though. Jado, did you want to talk about a different part of this, or am I covering important stuff here?
No, it's that I wanted to hear the strategy that as I'm a graduate, I would follow if I was applying as a student who is also listening. I also want to add one thing. A recruiter, previous HR person, she told me, when you applying, as you said, you have a target of companies you want to apply to, bookmark or kind of make an alert for you when they post something, apply within the first hour. The jobs app is posted in the first hour, just apply. Because after that, they will receive hundreds and hundreds, but they just check the first 10. It's like, good.
Very good point.
This is it.
Very good point. Yes. And then if you get to an interview, study up on, as you know, the STAR interview method is very good. Let AI coach you in how to answer difficult questions. And then, of course, you make them human. They come from you as opposed to the AI words.
Yeah. But I would love to shift it to something as we also get to the close. The world is changing so fast. There's a lot of things happening in different areas of the world, and society level, as we said, economy level. But I would like to touch on the point. You've been in the world of corporate, and now you moved to something different, and you realize, yes, this is where I was supposed to be. But if you send me back 30 years or 20 years, I would never change anything. I would just keep it like this. And I would like to ask this. What's the impact you would like to see in the world?
The more I go down this journey, the more humbling it is, because you realize such a great need, and I can only have one little part of it, as most of us can only make one little part. But if we don't do our one little part, and we all collectively don't do that, then we've accomplished nothing. So understanding what I could do and what I couldn't do was a process. And it was mixed with a lot of failure and some successes. And it's early. I would like to think it's still very early to write my story. And it might end in huge, complete failure. Who knows? But pick a area that you can give back to society in some way and focus on that. Make sure it's something that makes you happy. I'm speaking to everybody about this. It's something that inspires you, because if you're not inspired to do it, you won't continue doing it. And I found Global Mentorship Initiative. This opportunity came because I was inspired to do something that was a detail in a larger strategy of bringing jobs and raising the employment rate in communities and the financial well-being of communities. Well, I can do very little of that, but what I can do is to make sure when those jobs are there that the students who need them the most are equally competitive for those jobs. That's my little part in the ecosystem, and it feels good because I see some results. But I don't think I thought about this. If I have a regret, it's that I didn't start this earlier. And yet I can't look at it that way because that doesn't serve me in the future, for one point. But also, the conditions were not there for me to start this in the future. I was not at a professional level or a point that I could have started a company uh, 30 years ago. There are a lot of young people today, I think you're one of them, that have that knowledge now. They have that understanding, and it wasn't me. That was not me. And so I guess in that way I was kind of a late bloomer, but I can't have regrets about that. It only matters what I do from today forward instead of looking at the past. And maybe if we could all just hang up our regrets about what we haven't done and say, all right, today this is my plan. I know that I'm going to succeed in about 40% of it if I'm lucky, but that's 40% more than I will if I just stay here where I am today.
Wow, thank you, thank you. I I I think we don't get that so much from people, that honesty to say, just find your little niche, let's say, of what you can serve, and then just serve it. But also look at it as a journey that led you to that. It's not like, hi, I wish I would have done this sooner. As you said, it's that journey has led you to this point. And I think as young people, we struggle with that because I want where you are, like right now, but I have to discount it and go back and say, okay, this is actually how the journey went. And understanding that it's a journey, it's very hard.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very hard, and I think we need to hear that very much as young people. But I was lucky to have the mentors, and also my first boss. He taught me a lot of things, and showed me that you get somewhere because you coming from somewhere, which means you go through a lot of things you like, things you don't like, but eventually you get to today. So whatever you went through, it's just what led you to today. And we spend so much time on, hey, what I'm doing now is not working, so that means I'm in trouble today. But actually, no. What you're doing today is a result of their life or what you did 5 or 2 to 3 years ago. And
Exactly. Yeah.
we don't hear that very much from people ahead of us. Yeah, yeah. So thank you for saying that. As we close, GMI is providing mentorship to students all over the world, Africa, South America, and different places. And my opinion is that we need to get this to as many people as possible. Well, how do people support you? Corporations or individuals? How do people support GMI to get this work to as many people as possible?
Yeah, there are three ways that we work with our ecosystem. One, as I mentioned earlier, youth partners, universities, or partners, NGOs that work with students in underserved situations. We'd love to have them as our partners because we need students. We're always looking for more students to be in the program. Secondly, be a mentor. We love mentors. We have them many coming from corporate partners, many just applying on our website, globalmentorship.org. You can be a mentor and help a student and change a life. And then third, we love to work with corporate sponsors and foundations because that's actually what gives us the capability to grow and expand. That's our only limiting factor right now because we know this program works. We have so many mentors that want to participate, so many students. It's that funding that really drives us forward. And good news is it's really resonating with foundations and with partners. But if you're listening and you want to bring the mentorship program to your company to make it available to your employees, we'd love for you to be a partner with GMI. And you can find out more about that on globalmentorship.org.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, John, for making this happen, and I hope people will support the work. I am in part a result of the GMI program. I've benefited from it, and I would recommend anybody who want to be a mentor, please sign up. A student, please sign up for the program, because it will not only guide you to find a job, but also it will give you an inside information from the corporate world. So thank you, John, for joining, and also I appreciate the work you're doing with GMI and everybody at GMI. So please keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. It works. It works.
Yeah. Hey, Shado, thank you so much for inviting me on, giving me an opportunity to speak taking so much time up. And I just appreciate the work that you're doing as well and getting this message out.